Today we're going to look at the Nubi 2, a budget-friendly, auto-folding ultra-compact from Kinderkraft that we've had multiple requests to evaluate both on the channel as well as through Patreon. So let's get started then, looking over the model from top to bottom and examining its advantages and disadvantages in terms of child comfort, ease of use, performance and mechanics, before ending with a discussion of which uses and lifestyles it may suit, as well as how it matches up to the rest of the market with regards to price. And starting off with some stats, the Nubi 2 clocks in at just under 8 kilos and folds down to 51.5 by 31.5 by 51 centimeters. It can take up to 22 kilos in the seat and 3 kilos in the underslung storage basket. Looking at child comfort, the Nubi 2 has a width of 34 centimeters, a total length for the sitting surface, meaning the backboard, baseboard, and leg rest, of 87 centimeters, and a total longer length of 113 centimeters, when also taking into account the distance to the front frame mounted footrest and space beneath the canopy. At first look, these are quite generous dimensions, exceeding those of a lot of other ultra-compacts out there, though it's important to note that the distance between the Nubi 2's somewhat low-positioned seat and the front frame-mounted footrest is a bit shorter than normal, which has an effect on leg positioning for older toddlers. And as a result, I would say that the model is well above the curve in terms of seat comfort for children up until around 3 years old or so, but is likely to be a tad cramped in terms of leg space after this time. As far as other aspects of the seat are concerned, the model has a decently upright position, though it takes a bit of finger strength to get it all the way up, and a newborn acceptable near full flat recline, which is important as the Nubi 2 has neither car seat adapters or a bassinet available for extra purchase. The textiles on the model are of decent quality, above what I expect in this price class. There's ventilation both in the canopy, as well as a mesh wall that can be opened with the seat reclined. The harness is set up to hold the straps away from the seat back, and a surprise bonus insect netting can be found hidden in the leg rest. On the negative side, padding is a bit skimpy on the model in my opinion, and though the canopy is extendable via both a sun flap and an extra section zipped into the rear, its high positioning still makes sun coverage a bit minimal for younger toddlers. As far as parent comfort is concerned, the Nubi 2's handle stands at a comfortable, non-adjustable 105 centimeters off the ground, while the shopping basket, though not all that high in its weight capacity, is acceptably accessible from the rear for a model of this sort. Looking at folding, the Nubi 2 auto-folds, meaning that depressing the handle buttons and giving it a little push are all that's needed for the stroller to fold down on its own. Which is quite convenient, of course, though I would note that the standing fold is not always immediately stable, and you may need to keep a hand available to catch it. When folded, the bumper bar doubles as a handle for carrying the model, and the Nubi 2 is quite compact for fitting in a car trunk, though its folded dimensions are a bit too large for the IATA's cabin luggage requirements, meaning that it's unlikely to be accepted as such by a lot of airlines. When it comes to how the Nubi 2 feels to use, the chassis as a whole is pleasantly rigid and sturdy feeling in terms of both the bars and its overall structure. The peripheral mechanisms, however, in particular the folding buttons, the reclining flap on the seat, and the brakes, feel a bit looser and weaker unfortunately, though not so bad as to be areas that I'd necessarily worry about breaking, provided that you treat them a little carefully. As far as driving is concerned, despite being a bit on the larger and heavier side for ultra-compacts, the Nubi 2 has pretty minimal suspension and only average-sized wheels, around 6 inches in the back and a little over 5 in the front, meaning that the model will do best on smooth ground, like pavement and indoor environments, though can handle minor rougher stuff too, like broken sidewalks, finer-grained gravel, lawn, and so on, when you absolutely need it to. Alright, let's move on to the mechanics of the Nubi 2 then, starting off with the handle, folding system, and the general structure of the chassis, where the overall design bears a strong resemblance to higher-priced models such as the Butterfly and Minu, with a single pair of wires and sturdily constructed locking points high up on the handle arms, thick bars angled to combat pressures from steering and tipping, reinforced connection points, decent support struts, and good cross support to prevent asymmetrical loosening. The major difference between the Nubi 2 and these models design-wise is the autofold, which is achieved via a pair of relatively large springs beneath the seat frame. This sort of a setup is a trade-off, Nice for the easier fold, of course, but putting a lot of extra pressure on several riveted points in the model's undercarriage. And if I were to venture a guess, either these rivets or the springs themselves are more likely to be potential problem areas for loosening or broken components than a lot of the rest of the chassis. Moving down to the rear frame of the Nubi 2, there's again some limited suspension, though not enough to keep the model from getting jittery when the ground is continuously bumpy. As far as the brake system is concerned, the central portion is rotation-based, which is good, but wires are still used to get down past the suspension hinges, and these wires are partially exposed, meaning a potential for moisture and grit to cause problems over time unless the brakes are regularly lubricated. The rear wheels are decently constructed in terms of the rims and axles. They sit a tad loose in the housings, but not to the point of being worrisome, while the tires are of a smooth, softer foam, decent for the most part, but with the possibility of getting ugly a few years down the road from the effect of sharper pebbles. Looking lastly at the front frame, there's a bit more suspension built into the forks, though again the effect is likely to be minimal, and the model has no swivel locks, which is perfectly fine in my opinion, since you shouldn't really be using the Nubi 2 in rougher places anyway, and also because the connection of the front forks within the housings is quite tight and well built, and as a result, I highly doubt that this is going to be one of those models that will wind up developing wobbling problems down the road. As a last note, despite the price, the axle for the wheel within the fork is unscrewable, not a rivet, as one sometimes finds on cheaper strollers, which is great because it means that the forks themselves can be disassembled should you need to replace ball bearings or clean hair and debris from around the axles. So, should you get the Nubi 2 then? Maybe. With our background in repair, the top factor for judging strollers is generally durability relative to price. And here, despite a few minor concerns, the Nubi 2 actually passes quite well, offering a tight, solid chassis design well below the cost of a lot of similarly constructed models. And in addition to this, despite that lower positioned seat reducing leg space for older toddlers, the seat as a whole is also quite nice for its size, reclined and upright positions, and its relatively long leg rest. That being said, use value for the model is limited by the fact that it doesn't fold small enough to pass the IATA's cabin luggage standards, and also by the lack of any sort of car seat compatibility, leaving the Nubi 2 a potentially strong purchase if you're shopping for an ultra-compact on a budget, but only if you don't need these characteristics. In any case, we hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. In addition, if you're currently shopping for a stroller, we have a buyer's guide on our Patreon page which lists a wide range of models that we recommend, with a lot of technical and lifestyle related information. You can find it by following the link in the description. Thank you.